This is the story of a Lombax named Ratchet and his robot friend Clank and the muscular, irresistibly handsome hero who helped them save the galaxy.
So Ratchet did not appear at the Sony press conference.
Kind of disrespectful.
I mean, maybe like a montage or something like that, but was playable at the show. So this was this by appointment, or did you just, the Ratchet was there
On the
you
show
picked
floor?
the controller and you jumped on in?
Yep.
So everybody got to play Ratchet, so there's nothing special about you, Huber. Everybody got a chance.
Yep. Good. Everyone
to
should
check
play
this out
Ratchet.
at E3 2015. Why should everyone play Ratchet?
Because everything about that world, everything about those games is just, like, it embodies video games. I just love collecting bolts and killing enemies and just, like, leveling up your weapons. Because I remember in the very first Ratchet and Clank, you don't level up your weapons. That was added in later ones. And now, it's kind of like what they're doing with Mirror's Edge. They're going back and they're reimagining, I guess, the first Ratchet and Clank to enhance the story, the characters, and the gameplay for an entirely new audience that maybe might not have played them. Because that series has been one continuous timeline since the beginning, and that's always really, really great to fans of the franchise because they're caught up, they're connected, they're invested, but it's somewhat alienating to people that have never played them because it's hard to jump in to, the fourth or fifth game in a series.
I was the Jack and Daxter kid. Like those were the games that I was playing. And I know you can probably play both, you know, but like
Brad was the Sly kid.
Yeah, everyone had their own that they went with.
our
Yeah.
own little like cartoony series. So this is definitely something you think is like the perfect time, to jump in. Speaking of like, video game aesthetics, there's like a video game gun. It looked like there was some kind of like
8-bit gun.
Atari.
The depixelizer.
Oh, yeah, that's what it's called. Oh,
Depixelizer.
so cool.
Insomniac, long history with wackadoo weapons, especially Ratchet and Clank. Some of my favorites, but the depixelizer absolutely steals the show. You blast them, and all the noises are very 8-bit, like ba-choo, 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 do-do-do-do. So certain enemies will only take one hit, and then they go all 8-bit. But then the bigger guys will take multiple shots to fully depixelize, and they kind of go into just like a jumbled mess of D-pixels, and then you can go up to them and they all just fall apart.
So new weapons is a huge thing. So every time I remember when Ratchet games come out, it's like, okay, what are the new weapons going to be in this one? Everybody remembers like the commercials with the kids in the backyard, like testing out different new weapons. And this is a reboot, but at the same time, it has been a while since we've gotten one of these games.
Yeah.
A lot of the games in the franchise were like offshoots, weird offshoots on PSP or. So now that we're coming out with a new one, it makes sense we got the depixelizers, we have new weapons. Would it also make sense to maybe like bring back some of the old weapons? Like, is the arsenal going to be reminiscent of the first Ratchet and Clank?
Yeah.
Okay.
The old trusty combuster never goes away. He's got that. So the Groovatron was there.
The rocket launcher, right?
The rocket launcher, the Warmonger, the Mr. Zircon. A ton of weapons are returning, but one of the things that got me straight away was I'll never forget the moment when I remember being in a game store seeing Ratchet and Clank, and I didn't know what it was at the time. It was right when the very first one came out, and it looked like a cartoon. I think I was in middle school at the time, so I was like, I want to play intense games, And I remember flipping it over, and you saw all these weapons. I was like, why does this cartoon character have all these weapons? It wasn't what I expected. I can remember the most magical moment of popping that PS2 version in was collecting those bolts for the very first time. That currency, that economy, leveling up your gun or buying new guns, and that is what they captured with this reboot on the show floor. Very first thing that came to my mind was how magical they made it feel again to collect those bolts. They just all rush into Ratchet, and I was like, oh man.
Not to
That
mention,
feeling.
it looks really good.
Yeah.
Like, visually.
Oh, yeah.
And how much stuff's going on the screen and everything. It's super impressive.
It has looked good.
Oh, yeah,
pretty
they've always
on
been
PS3.
good-looking
They
games,
definitely
yeah.
scaled it up when the series went HD. Do you think it's just really like depth? Like the colors are richer, the shadows are better?
Yeah, everything. All of the above.
And I mean that is to be expected, because these guys are working on it. Were you excited for the movie? You a little bit nervous about the movie?
I'm really excited. I'm stoked to see Ratchet on the big screen. Yeah.
Do you know how this is? This just like a retelling of the events of the film?
The first one, yeah. So
Okay.
it's gonna be weird how they go together. If it bridges anything, or if it's just retelling of the first one as a movie, retelling the first one as a game. That's gonna be really interesting.
I wonder if if one's gonna spoil the other, or vice versa, or
Yeah.
if they, or because I really enjoy, it is definitely self-referential humor. We learn lots of interesting things about Clank and about Ratchet throughout the series, and there's lots of characters that have no hesitation in making fun of themselves. And the trailer itself made fun of the game because they said this is the game based on the movie on the game. I wonder if we're going to get, some South Park fourth wall breaking down, just in the concept of like, we recognize that the movie is over here and the game's over here and these aren't quite the same, and maybe they'll comment on that.
Yeah.
Maybe if you see the movie and play the game, you might pick up some things in the game. Just wishful thinking.
Yeah.
But I have wishful thinking like this because this is happening a lot. Like a lot of, Tomb Raider got a reboot, Need for Speed's getting a reboot, Hitman's getting a reboot. And a lot of times, people can get kind of dissatisfied with it because it's like, it's frustrating that you weren't able to continue the series and you have to go back to the drawing board.
Well, Hitman is continuing. But
it's picking up where it left
Hitman's
off.
continuing. They called it like James Bond, so it's kind
Okay.
of just like that. But it builds off everything else.
But, at the
But
same
they're doing
time,
it a ton,
It's refreshing to really just wipe the slate clean. Appreciate what you did before. Have those experiences live on those consoles or in that general era of tech.
Yeah.
And now that we have this new awesome, gorgeous system that we're able to produce Pixar level animation. So much more than we did in the prior gens. Maybe it's a good time to start things over. Yeah. Does this feel? Are you excited for the future of Ratchet? Does it seem like it's on a good course?
Yeah.
Not only for quality and you're capable of making awesome Ratchet games on the PS4. Yeah. But is it time? Do you think people are going to embrace this series? Do you think kids growing up are going to accept this? Or are they just going off playing Wii U games or playing their handheld systems or mobile stuff?
I absolutely think they will. There was an interesting thing I picked up when Brad was playing. A guy walked by and he goes, "Oh man, I hope they remake Up Your Arsenal." So it's weird, it's there were so many games, and again, it's that fan base of having that continuous story, because A Crack in Time brings that whole franchise together, and it's gonna be a tough decision. Do you go back now and remake all of them, or do you have this as a new starting point to go in a different direction?
That's what it's
Star
probably
Trek.
gonna be, yeah.
You have that shared experience where that little bit of familiarity where everybody can start at the same spot.
Yeah.
So if you bring in old fans, hopefully if you bring in old fans, they can kind of reminisce and remember things. Like I was saying, it'd be great if there were just a couple of winks in there that were kind of commenting, oh, that was the first game, where this is a different one. But at the same time, all that stuff's going to go flying over the heads of kids that are picking up, people in middle school that are picking up the game. And what's this crazy Toon game with lots of weapons for the first time? Any multiplayer? I mean, any chance that you could, for co-op or anything like that? Is there any more like functionality that they can bring to it that doesn't necessarily rock the boat of the modes that were available in the first game?
They messed with.
I think when they try to mess with the formula a little, it usually doesn't end super well.
Yeah, they added some multiplayer in the other ones that was not as well received as just the core. The core
Like
campaign.
Deadlocked or something that had like his battle
some
arena
deathmatch,
multiplayer.
and they had Full Frontal Assault and some other weird spin-offs.
All for one.
Yeah, so I don't know if they're gonna do that or just focus on making the core game.
Did you play the whole thing that was on offer? Like, did they have a little demo?
Yeah, so
and you...
all the footage that got released, it's the train station and then the boss fight. Those were the two playable things. So all the footage is online of what we played. And the only thing I picked up was little frame rate issues here and there, especially when picking up a ton of bolts. But they have a year to polish that, so I'm definitely not concerned. It runs good.
And it's having the character animation in these worlds, like all that's the PS4 can handle that, but those bolts, it's rough. That's a lot of bolts.
Bolts
on
make it chug.
Yeah. So Brad, having not played through all of the Ratchet and Clanks, are you super stoked that this is a reboot? So now you can start on the first one.
I'm like a solid 8 of excitement.
All right. All right.
Great, thumbs up. I'm sorry if I don't say 10 for anything Mike likes. He gets depressed like this.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to hopping back in. It's been a while.
Cool.
Don't be afraid not to tell him you're hype.
He's not afraid.
Oh, I'm definitely not afraid.
StarCraft 2 tried to get him to play for like 10 years.
You
He's like,
hype
no,
bully
no.
you.
Yeah, he's a bully.
He puts me in my place.
When's this happening? When are we getting this?
Spring 2016. Same with the movie.
Okay. So, like you were saying, it was like, they got a while to clean it up, and it seemed like it was the beginning of the game. So it's probably smart for demo purposes to just like make this one level of proof of concept, and then of course we'll see more, and hopefully get some more awesome trailers. I really like the humor that's been in the trailer so far, and it's a gorgeous looking game.
It blew me away.
Are you gonna miss it before you get to see it again?
What?
You gonna miss this game until you get your hands on it again?
No, I can wait.
You can wait?
Yeah, there's so many games, Brandon Jones. It's too many.
Hopefully we'll get your hype up before then.
Yeah.
Thanks, Huber. Yeah.